Following Donald Trump's insistence on actually pointing out the flaws in his opponent's arguments, the luvvies all started insisting that in the next debate, the moderator would turn off his microphone. Really?
For the question, you asked me if you could make an announcement first. And I asked you for permission to make an announcement myself. Is this on? Mr. Green, did you turn that microphone? You asked for me if you would... I am paying for this microphone, Mr. Green.
I am paying for this microphone. What a great, great man. That was, of course, Ronald Reagan, who was also mercilessly ridiculed by the left back in the 80s, although obviously not to the same degree Trump now is. But the tactics were the same. The left had only one strategy, which was to silence Reagan and imply he was brainless rather than actually confront his far superior ideas.
Ed?
What?
Don't worry about the brain, Ed.
Oh.
I feel so much better without it. Also...
You get the idea. Nothing's changed. And if you didn't bother to watch the debate on Wednesday, you're probably now relieved, seeing as the only story up until the announcement that the president tested positive to the coronavirus was that Trump was a bully and a buffoon, and the whole thing was a disaster.
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
Well, no. In fact, as is always the case when the dust settles, I actually thought it was an incredibly revealing debate in many ways. And in fact, ironically, the better strategy on Trump's part would have been to simply let his opponent keep talking for the entire 90 minutes, because we learned two things in this debate. Firstly, that Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And secondly, that Joe Biden is Ilhan Omar, rolled into Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, rolled into Greta Thunberg, with a hefty dollop of Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders tossed into the mix for good measure. When the coronavirus hit, Trump was one of the first leaders, when the coronavirus actually hit back in March, Trump was one of the first leaders to close the borders to China, which of course had the left immediately accusing him of being a racist for doing so, with one lovey mayor even urging people to go to celebrate the Chinese New Year and hugging someone Chinese to prove that Trump was a racist. It was absurd stuff. But Biden in the debate, sounding like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez herself, accused Trump back at the time of being a hysterical, xenophobic and fear-mongering about the Chinese. We now know that Trump was right and Biden was wrong, but listen to the debate.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, he did. Or take the Supreme Court. Trump has had a list of potential nominees to fill any vacancies right from the get-go, so there have been no surprises. The public knows what they're getting. But Joe Biden refuses to name his list of potential Supreme Court justices because they are almost certainly hardcore left-wingers and neo-Marxists who would be a disaster for American democracy and the world. Trump was 100% correct during the debate to call Biden out on this, but the moderator let it pass and silenced Trump.
Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that
because
question?
the question is,
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended.
a critical question which the moderator should have asked, which Donald Trump asked, and instead got abused and called stupid and unpresidential for asking a very, very pertinent and relevant question. Then there's been the huge fuss over Trump supposedly not condemning white supremacists. But listen closely to this exchange, and again, Trump is correct. The violence and the looting, the arson and the anarchy has come almost entirely from Black Lives Matter and Antifa rioters. There's been months of it. But Biden, sounding even crazier than Ilhan Omar, can't even admit that Antifa exists.
Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white
like me to
condemn?
white supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
malicious.
Trump was right. And of course, Joe Biden dare not say where he stands on issues such as defunding the police, or even utter the words law and order without adding spurious qualifications that render his comments meaningless.
Democrats are in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
And he wouldn't. He said, oh, law and order with justice, and he faffed around. Then we get to all the rubbish being spouted about Donald Trump not being willing to accept the election result. This despite the fact that only recently Hillary Clinton was urging Biden not to accept the result if Trump won. But anyway, listen to what Donald Trump actually says.
But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that mean,
from a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to... These people aren't equipped to handle it, number one. Number two, They cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Again, common sense and truth-telling from Trump. What's he supposed to say when there's clear evidence of vote tampering? Oh, who cares? Whatever, I don't care. That would be absurd. Next, Biden heads off into the fantasy world of Greta Thunberg.
Making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming.
Oh, really, Joe? I think twisters, tornadoes and hurricanes have been around a lot longer, even than you have in the Senate, Joe. Here's a rather well-known one from 1939. Global warming, clearly. The simple reality is that there are fewer deadly hurricanes and tornadoes in the US currently than in the past, and 2018 was one of the lowest years ever. And if Joe can show me precisely where on the US seaboard there have been rising sea levels due to man-made carbon emissions, why, I'll eat my teleprompter. And then, of course, we had Biden blaming Trump for the recent Californian wildfires, like some feeble-minded Hollywood celebrity trying to get noticed at the Oscars. Trump's common-sense response was 100% correct. Indeed, it could have come straight out of the New South Wales bushfire inquiry.
You need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down.
Then the economy. Biden has promised to commit the United States, the greatest economic powerhouse and financial force for good the world has ever seen, to adopt the communist manifesto known as the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal would decimate America and the world economy. But Biden, again, tries to have it both ways, obfuscating, and Trump is entirely correct to try to pin him down, which the moderator didn't on this fundamental issue.
Go ahead. Mr. Vice President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you support the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
that? No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
Oh, you don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
Yeah, one moment he supports it, the next moment he's selling it. I mean, the guy's a joke. If you actually ignore all the screeching from the luvvies about Trump's so-called boorish behaviour, even in what was a chaotic debate, mainly because the moderator was so useless, the truth still shone through loud and clear. Donald Trump is a pragmatic, common-sense leader with sound policies to improve the working lives of Americans. His opponent is a front man for a hard-left, neo-Marxist agenda. And if you listen carefully, the debate revealed that he is just a front man for the very worst ideas of every single one of them. But on a lighter note, I was highly amused to see that there was one other lovey Joe Biden decided to channel. This is the policy you have when you have no policy. The idea you have when you have no idea. And he nicked it straight from our very own Kevin Rudd.
And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen.
Of course, that's how to solve all the problems of the world's greatest superpower. If he got together before the end of the year, they could even call it a 2020 summit and maybe even invite Kate Blanchett. Say it ain't so, Joe.